We're back. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Share it with your significant other. Share it with your psychiatrist, your priest. Share it across your social media platforms. Welcome into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Where is the Pac-12 media deal? Where is it? Now, you might be asking, Greg, why are you asking that? Why are you asking that stupid question? We've been waiting for 11 months. Why are you asking that today? Because I think it's really obvious why I'm asking that today. We're going to go back. Now, I know it's June 14th. And I'm going to go back to the Pete Thamel article on ESPN Plus, that he published, and it goes back to June 12th. And I wasn't here to cover it. But I watched people. At night when my wife was sleeping next to me, we were on the banks of the Mississippi down in southern Minnesota. I kept an eye on what people were reporting on, their takes, their angles. People showed me stuff. There's still people out there that don't quite understand what's going on. They're delusional, but that's fine. We welcome everybody here at Peek Around the Corner. But I want to go into that Pete Thamel article. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. There's a link provided. But there's some there's some clues in there. Where is the Pac-12 media deal? Because if there was one, if there was going to be one that could keep all 10 schools together, it should be out right now. Now! And I'm going to tell you the reasons why here in a moment. So welcome in, everybody. I see a lot of people in the chat. I appreciate you all coming in. Ryan Matson, New York Grape 87, Bruce Harris, Boomer, Derek Marie, James Foster. Thanks for coming in, James. West Virginia guy, 56, Ryan Brooks, Obsidian. Tough Tony's in the house. KS Barron, FN, Big 12 Mafia, Sean Eaton, Laura Weiss, David Hackett, Jared Jones, Buckeye, Motivision, Buckeye, all these Mr. Buckeyes are in the house. David Kreitzer, Jeff Olson, no besmirching the evil badger, he's in the house. Juan Carlos, where's the CW Ion Scripts Mafia? Daniel Montcastle, thanks for coming in. June 22 General Board Meeting. Colorado General Board Meeting. Mr. Monkey says hello all. Coy, thanks for coming on in. Curtis Brown, Jim Brokaw, Brokoff, Buckshot Kid is back in the house. Clint Moses, Go Beeves, Lou, Tom DeBay, Greg Welch. Greg Welch, thanks for coming on in. Everyone keeps saying we need numbers before we decide to leave or stay, but if there are no numbers, then they'll never have to decide. Nathan Campbell, 21 Bucket 21, welcome back, Greg. Welcome back to you all. Thank you all for showing up. Once again, you got to be subscribed to our channel because we can pop up at any time. We got in a little bit earlier than expected today from our vacation. There's a lot of bad air. We're getting those fires in Canada that's coming into Minnesota now. So we decided to come in a little bit earlier, get hunkered down here in Minnesota. Cornelius Green, praise the Lord. Greg, praise you. I want to get into this here. Once again, as you know, Cloak and Dagger. These are the rules. Get your Cloak and Dagger mug. Get your Cloak and Dagger mug at the merchandise store. We also have the new t-shirts have finally come out. The summer t-shirts. Keep your head on a swivel t-shirts. Go at the merchandise store. Take a look at that. All different colors, all different sizes. They look pretty cool with our new artwork on it. Okay, let's get to the Pete Thamel article. I want to get to the Pete Thamel article. I want to talk a little bit more about some other stuff. And then we're going to get to your comments, then to your phone calls as quick as possible. But I really do want to hit on this. We don't go through the whole article. Again, there's a link provided. But first of all, Pete Thamel gives you a big hint. Black Rain is in the house. He's in the house, Black Rain, Mr. Spartan. Thanks for coming on in, Omega. Appreciate it. This article, well, let's get to it. The latest we're hearing on Colorado, the Big 12, and all things realignment. I think I'm going to provide an angle for you all that maybe you haven't heard from other people. Let's put it that way. Tony, yes, the smoke from Canada is brutal today. That's why we came home about 6 hours earlier than planned. That's why we're doing this live show quite a bit earlier than planned. So thanks for y'all coming in. What will Colorado do? Again, Pete Thamel, ESPN. Here's the bottom line in Colorado. It has met with the Big 12. It has met with the Big 12. Eye to eye. It has been in the Big 12 in a prior life. leaving after the 2010-2011 season. It remains improbable the Buffaloes leave for the Big 12 until the Pac-12 presidents get a firm sense of what their next television deal is going to look like. Firm sense. Doesn't mean they need to see every detail of the deal, right? They just need to have a firm sense of what it's going to look like. Colorado Chancellor Phil DeStefano has said as much. However, sources told ESPN that Colorado's patience has waned, which prompted the in-person meeting with the Big 12 back in May. Now, as we've been talking about peek around the corner ever since April, middle of April, especially April 28th, when we said there was going to be a hot bubble of action, April 28th to May 17th, they decided on May 7th for this in-person meeting, Colorado and the Big 12. That was the shot to the solar plexus. We basically gave details of that in our last live show. Now, we talked about that for weeks. We talked about it before May 7th, that there was something big happening. Right on May 8th, May 9th, we said there was a shot to the solar plexus. Pete Thamel's letting you all in, giving details that I wasn't able to share. That was it. It was May 7th in a major city in the Midwest. And here at Peek Around the Corner, we gave you the most advanced peek that anybody else out there could have ever given you. We got wind of this. We said something big was going to happen. We could not go into details. We had to keep the way we do this, ladies and gentlemen, is the only way that we can gain trust with sources is to be trustworthy with sources. And we were trustworthy throughout the whole ordeal while providing you as much information as possible. And we did it in the PATC theater. And we're going to continue to do that. But this is what happened. Eye to eye, May 7th, in a neutral site, so to speak, in a Big Ten major city, Colorado met with the Big 12. Now, you can go back to May 7th. You can go back a week prior to that, 2 weeks prior to that, when we were talking about something big was going to happen. You can go a week after, 2 weeks after. Heck, you can even go today and look at Twitter and message boards, and there's certain individuals that do not believe anything is still going on. That if you say anything that there's a possibility of a Pac-12 school going to Big 12, they think you're lying, they're part of a plot. And here's Pete Thamel. Here's Pete Thamel coming out, saying everything we've been saying for weeks. We're going to get to, I see in the chat, people are talking about the ACC. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. So we skipped a part of the article. When will those numbers come in? Where is that Pac-12 media deal? When will those numbers come in? The latest timeline for a deal came from Washington State's President Kirk Schultz, who predicted by the end of June in a board meeting on Friday, holding the Pac-12 to Schultz State may be foolish, as it came in the context of him trying to get board approval for a budget, not a hard and fast deadline. The most realistic expectation for the Pac-12 remains later this summer. Not June 30th, but later this summer. The Pac-12 won't be blindsided if Colorado, listen to this now. This is the money shot. This is the money shot. The Pac-12 won't be blindsided if Colorado does end up leaving. It has been acknowledged around the league that the Buffaloes would be replaced by San Diego State, a quick solution that delivers a desirable market. So the Pac-12 won't be blindsided. The Pac-12 knows that Colorado has been talking to the Big 12 eye to eye. Eye to eye. They know this is going on, even though there's some individuals out there still today that hang a whole bunch of diplomas on their wall. They don't think any of this is happening. But most people now completely understand what has been going on in the month of May. And in the month of June, a whole lot of stuff's been going on. We'll get to that. Okay. Here's the money shot number 2 of the article. Money shot number 2, and probably the most important part of the article. But it's not as simple as a plug and play. It's not as simple as Colorado leaving and San Diego State replacing them. Since the symbolism of Colorado leaving would likely mean more than the actual defection, leading to more departures and uncertainty. Do you understand this? Colorado leaving would likely mean, according to Pete Thamel, according to who he's talking to, would likely mean more than the actual defection, leading to more departures and uncertainty. We're going to get back to the article because there's another money shot in there. So Colorado leaving would likely mean more departures. So, and Colorado has met eye to eye all the way back to May 7th, and the Pac-12 finally figured it out. And they had other important events that happened. May 24th and May 31st, UPATC community knew about it, probably, most definitely, before the Pac-12 figured it out. So now they know all this. They know they could lose Colorado. And they know it's not just about Colorado, that most likely they would lose other Pac-12 schools. And I'm going to ask you the question again. Where is the Pac-12 media deal? Because if you are this close to, the Colorado canceled a June 9th meeting. June 6th meeting was about realignment. And I can pretty much guarantee you the Pac-12 figured that out as well. I'm trying to paint you all a picture here. Pac-12 is behind the PATC community and all this. You guys have known this before the May 7th meeting happened. You know something big was happening. You were told about May 24th. You were told about May 31st. You were told about June 6th. So, the Pac-12 is this far away from losing Colorado. They could have lost them last week. So if they had a media deal, that had any chance of keeping all 10 schools together, where is it? Where is it? It's honestly, I see the same people over and over again, not believing what is going on right now. Even though Pete Thamel just said it June 12th. Okay, don't believe Greg Pflugar. Don't believe the fat guy from Minnesota behind the mic. Forget about me. Forget about what we said prior to May 7th. We keep repeating these dates over and over again, even before it happened. Even before those dates. Forget about what we've said. Pete Thamel, read what we just went through. So I asked those people, where's the media deal? If you are so sure that nothing is going to happen, that there's no poaching going to happen, where is that media deal? What does it consist of? Where is it? It's 11 months of this. Let's get through the Pete Thamel article. because I think people are losing track of the story. The story's always been about the deal. Pac-12 media deal. That's the story. And all the information that we have received in the weeks and months, it ain't good. It ain't good. If the information that came to peek around the corner was the deal's going to be pretty good, it's going to match the Big 12. It looks like they're going to get ESPN. It looks like this, looks like that. We would have reported that. We go where the story goes. But it doesn't exist. There's no real numbers. There's no hard numbers. There's nothing. And we're going to go through what John Oran and Andrew Michon said today about the Pac-12 media deal, what they are hearing from their sources. So to all those who say none of this is real, Greg is all about the clickbaits. He's all about Endeavor plot. He's all about lying. I ask you, where's the Pac-12 media deal? Where is it? Who else could end up jumping to the Big 12? Pete Thamel. The prospect of Colorado leaving for the Big 12 is real enough that schools are already jockeying to see who could join them. Now, let me... I'm going to repeat this. I don't know how many times today. The prospect of, I'm going to say this so clearly and so slowly, even the people with 6 diplomas on the wall can understand. The prospect of Colorado leaving for the Big 12 is real enough that schools are already jockeying to see who could join them. And why do you all think we described as PATC Theater? By the way, the name of the theater is going to be called Holy Smokes. Holy Smokes Theater. College football, Holy Smokes Theater. Jockeying to see who could join them. Who is moving up those rows in the theater? For those who've been watching our live show, been listening to it, we talk about updated movement in that theater, and we're going to do that again today. But that's why we've been doing it. That's why we have UConn in the theater. And we never had Memphis. UNLV never got in there. Gonzaga's in the front foyer. And Colorado's been at the center of the stage. That's why we talk about the Holy Smokes Theater. That's why we're giving you the updates the way we're giving you. Because schools are so... The prospect of Colorado leaving for the Big 12 is real enough that the schools are already jockeying to see who could join them. And they've been doing that for weeks. Now, some of them have been late than others. Utah came in late, but I'm telling you, they're in the theater. They're sitting in the same row as Arizona State. Not behind Arizona State. They're sitting in the same row as Arizona State. Back to the article. It is instructive that the Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark denied meeting with Memphis about joining the conference, but hasn't denied contact with Colorado and UConn. For now, the Memphis interest remains strongest on the Memphis side, as they are just part of the Big 12's whiteboard of potential additions. The Big 12's main objective is fortifying the league with the best brands and markets to maximize revenue in the league's next television deal, which comes up after 2030 football season. Could they see if some of the aggrieved ACC schools end up breaking away and attempt to poach some of the leftovers? There's a lot of unhappiness in the ACC right now, said a Big 12 source. Why not see what happens with the Pac-12 and the ACC a little more before making any decisions? We'll talk about the ACC here in a little bit. Can the Pac-12 keep things together? Yes, it can, Pete Thamel. Pete Thamel article from 2 days ago. Can the Pac-12 keep things together? Yes, it can. The stakes have been clear and haven't really changed since we visited this topic in March. The future of the league rests on the Commissioner George Kliavkoff delivering a television deal and conceding grant of rights that flush with enough money to keep the league together. Nothing else matters. Hallelujah. Thank you, Pete Thamel. It's always been about the deal. Always been about the deal. Not about flow charts, not about charts, not about the history, not about the past. Can they get a good enough media deal together to keep the schools together? That's what this has always been about. Robbins, the University of Arizona president, said last week he's optimistic the league stays together, but called around to traditional television partners and those in the industry who knows where money flows, and there's still an aura of mystery to how the Pac-12 gets it done. The name of this show, the name of this live show is, Where is the Pac-12 Media Deal? As we said earlier in the Pete Thamel article, if Colorado goes, it's likely that others will follow. And I know there's people in the Pac-12 smart enough to know, they finally get it, that Colorado is an eyelash away from leaving. This is not theory. This is not a made-up plot. This isn't lying. This isn't clickbaiting. It hasn't been for weeks. It hasn't been for months. This is real. So you do not want to wait. If you've got something, get it out there. So where is it? Until both the deal and the grant of rights, which ties each school's TV money to the conference for the duration of the deal, are signed, uncertainty remains. Have-nots like Oregon State, Washington State remains hopeful. The schools with options to upgrade continue to explore them. Schools with options to upgrade continue to explore them? Like Oregon, Washington? Robbins spoke extensively about Arizona and the other schools needing to see the numbers of the upcoming deal before any moves are made. I've seen forecasts and projections, Robbins said. I do think there's good data on what the Pac-12 is valued at. I've seen those numbers. If we get close to those numbers, I think we'll be fine. Projections valued at. If we get numbers close to that, I think we'll be fine. But there is no hard numbers. There's no real deal in front of President Robbins. Back to the article. We're almost done here. Once the numbers arrive, schools still have to agree to the grant of rights for that amount and length of time. Robbins was cagey when asked about reports that the grant of rights have already been agreed to, saying essentially that the presidents need to see a deal. They need to see a deal. Anything. They just need to see something. And there hasn't been anything for 11 months. Show me the data, he said. We've got to see the data, and I think that's everybody's waiting on. And it sounds like it's coming soon. Per a source, the league has already decided if there's an early exit fee and what it would look like for any school attempting to leave the conference early. It allows the league to move faster once the media partners are set to announce a deal, said Pac-12 source of an early grant of rights discussion. I don't know. I think this grant of rights, however they come to the decision, is going to be really, really weak. Some schools are going to be able to leave. It's not going to be ironclad. It's not going to be ACC grant of rights. It's not going to be the Big 12 grant of rights. And we were told that all the way back in episode 52 when the Oregon Money Perch told us that. We reported to you all. That was a long time ago. And finally, this shroud of uncertainty can all go away for the Pac-12 if the television deal has a numeric value and comparable reach to a deal like the Big 12, which delivers about $31.7 million annually each school. Sign a comparable deal in this stretch of Pac-12 awkwardness, vulnerability, and uncertainty becomes a distant memory. But no one is still quite sure where the money and exposure are coming from. Once again, hallelujah to Pete Thamel for including the word exposure in this article. But no one is still quite sure where the money and exposure are coming from. Right now, everyone's dance card is pretty full. An industry source told ESPN this weekend. Now, thank you for your patience. There's a few more things I want to get to. I know that article was written 2 days ago. I wasn't here. I wanted to go through it because I think it's very important. Pete Thamel broke some eggs, made a good omelet. He talked once again. He did it in his last article, but once again he sort of said, look, Big 12 and Colorado met eye to eye. That was May 7th in a major city in the Midwest. Colorado also met internally on May 24th and May 31st with some people that they needed to get their support, and they got them. Colorado is within eyelash of leaving this conference. And if they do, Pete Thamel says it's likely that others are going to follow. So if that's the case, where's the media deal? Now you got to produce the media deal. If the Pac-12 knows, like Pete Thamel's telling you all, that they're an eyelash away from losing Colorado, where is the media deal? Let's get to John Oran. John Oran and Andrew Marchand, Sports Media Podcasts, this morning. On the latest Marchand and Oran Sports Media Podcast, New York Post sports media columnist Andrew Marchand broke down the latest he's hearing about networks' interest in the Pac-12. There isn't much. Not much of an update. Amazon is unlikely, he said. CBS is a no. NBC USA is another no. Fox is a no too. Those are the biggest players. Then you get into Apple. They're a little bit of a wild card. I've heard certain things, but nothing definitively. I lean towards probably not with them. The Pac-12 has said they do not want to do an all-digital deal. And it looks like that Apple's strategy. So that leaves the CW, Scripps, and those types of players. CW, Scripps, and those types of players. What's interesting about Apple, again, we have no intel here at Peek Around the Corner when it comes to Apple, what they're doing, who's they're interested in, nothing, nada, zilch. But we have told you in the past from Arizona State Money Perch, who nailed this story all the way back to January 31st, that there was no deal, there is no numbers, we haven't been given anything. Arizona State wants to stay in the Pac-12, but they're very angry. They're still angry. I can't even read you his last 5 letters. They're fuming. Arizona schools are not in for the streaming. Not for all streaming, not for majority streaming. It's not just Arizona, it's Arizona State as well. So that's the problem. You cobble together a media deal. You made an Apple that sub-licenses out to smaller linear networks. Okay, so you're thinking, okay, we'll do that. We'll keep everybody except for Colorado, but that won't keep the Arizona schools. So you cobble together CW. They cannot, George Kliavkoff cannot afford to lose the Arizona schools. So I think there is some real steam. What Andrew Michon is saying, that they're more likely to cobble together smaller linear networks and try to keep the losses at just Colorado. That's my take on it. We have no intel on Apple, but we know, we've been told over and over and over again by someone who's been dead accurate in the story from the beginning, that the Arizona schools are just not into this Apple, all digital, all streaming, or grand majority of it being Apple. So I think some of this is speculation on my part, but I think some of this is cutting the losses. Okay, we lose Colorado, but we need to keep Arizona home with us in the Pac-12. That's my take on it. Now, before we get to your comments and to your phone calls, the ACC situation, a lot of people are, we talked about this on December 26, 2022, March 31st, 2023. Yes, Big Ten, very interested in ACC schools, and they're going to be successful at some point going down in the East, Southeast, and poaching a couple schools. Everybody's in favor of it. Fox is in favor of it. All the schools are in favor of it. That's going to happen. But a lot of people are jumping way too far in advance on this story. Now, we jumped December 26, 2022. We gave what we believed on March 31st, what we were told by the Florida State Money Perch, the top ways for Florida State to challenge the grant of rights. But for Florida State, for Miami of Florida, for North Carolina and Virginia, yes, Pete Thamel, we agree with them. North Carolina, Virginia are going to be the main targets, the top main targets for both SEC and the Big Ten. And we believe Miami, Florida will go to the Big Ten at some point. For this to happen, someone has to challenge the grant of rights, ACC grant of rights in the courts. And not only challenge, but win. The big story that we're waiting on is to see what school challenges it first. Declares these are the reasons why A, B, and C were challenging the ACC grant of rights. That's the big story. Yes, you can call this channel today and speculate who's going to be targeting who. But all this, but people are jumping way too far ahead. And that happens. There's not going to be this story, we're in the middle of the beginning of the ACC drama. In the middle of the beginning. We're not at the end of the beginning. And people are jumping way out, way out. So I peek around the corner, you all can speculate. But in our reporting of it, it's all about what school is going to go first. And right now at peek around the corner, we would put odds, the favorite, the chalk is Florida State. But we can't, we could only speculate, maybe an educated speculation on that, but it could be North Carolina first. It could be Miami or Florida first. And we said all the way back on December 26th of 2022, we thought the time frame, it could move, but we thought the time frame was the first or second quarter of 2024. Could that change? Yes. Is the ACC schools, do they want to get out? Yes. Will it eventually happen? Yes. SEC and the Big Ten are going to grow with some ACC schools. No question about it. But the next big story in that drama is who's going to challenge the grant of rights first. It isn't going to be, in our strongly held opinion here at Peek Around the Corner, it's not. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and see Florida State has joined the SEC. We don't believe it's going to be. ESPN has somehow moved Florida State and Clemson to the SEC. It's not going to work that way. Because if it did, those schools would be going to the SEC, and all those ESPN payments would be going to the ACC to be shared with ACC schools. And why would Alabama, Auburn, why would those schools want that situation? They wouldn't. So every day we see ACC speculation. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's also informative. Talking about it, speculating what school could go where. We're going to be doing that here at Peek Around the Corner. But I just want to put the brakes on a little bit. The next big story is who's going to challenge it first, what school, and when. Let's get to your comments, John. George, just get it done or swim. Peaky Blinders. Thank you, John, for your super chat. I appreciate your generosity to this channel. Once again, thank you so very much. Our web. If Texas won't challenge the Big 12 Gore, who from the ACC is going to challenge the carbon copy of the Gore? Well, first of all, we don't know if it's a carbon copy. We've heard that. But again, the extended grant of rights have never been seen in public. What was promised to those ACC schools when they extended the grant of rights from ending to 2027 to 2036? I don't know that. Nobody in the chat knows that. Some lawyers know it. Some ACC athletic directors know it. But that has never been seen in public. So I don't know if it's a carbon copy. That extended grant of rights, do not know if it's a carbon copy. Again, but a lot of that our web I agree with. You got 13 years left on that grant of rights. Someone has to challenge it and win, or a bunch of schools have to challenge it and get a settlement. But that's the next major story. And we don't have any steam that's coming up. Now, if we do get that information, if we get information that gives you all a peek around the corner, we're gonna go live. It's gonna be breaking news. We're gonna pop in here and we're gonna tell you what we believe, what we have heard from our sources. But we don't have that. So it's fun. People can jump ahead, talk about it, speculate. But when we're talking about peek around the corner, we follow the story. And the story is, the next part of the story is who challenges the grant, who actually says we're going to court to challenge it. That's the story. Just like yeah, well, you know what? Conjundrum, we'll give an update on the PATC theater right now. Just like this story with the Pac-12, Big 12. We went where the story was. We had no preconceived notions. We let all the information in. And February 24th, we finally had to flip the odds that there was a better chance the Pac-12 was going to get poached by the Big 12 than not. Because that's where the story was. And it still is today. It hasn't changed. And that's what we're doing with the ACC. Okay, let's get to your comments here. CW is Big 12 country. Pac-12 has no leverage right now. Juan Carlos rooting for CW and Ion Scripps, honestly. Washington State revenue from 2021 was $40 million. And then Dalen said that it's total distribution, not just media. Where there's media distribution, then there's conference payouts. People get those mixed up all the time. And then there's total revenue, athletic department revenue. AAR, why did Colorado Buffaloes cancel that meeting? Woo! We at Peek Around the Corner have not been able to confirm why that meeting was canceled. We know that there is some very good reporting out there throughout this whole Pac-12, Big 12 saga. Some great reporting. And we have pointed them out before. 365 Sports, Brian Etheridge, incredible reporting. And I think they said, it was yesterday or the day before, they said it was either a donor or somebody in the board need to have a certain discussion. They wanted their voices to be heard. There was a late added voice to the conversation. I think that's how far they went with it at 365 Sports. We at Peek Around the Corner don't have that information. So they're probably ahead of us, right? In that. So that's pretty vague, but that's what they said. I might be missing what they said today. But it was a cancel. We can't get in. Here at Peek Around the Corner, we cannot get it confirmed why it was canceled. But we have been told that, and Pete Thamel's article on June 12th, Colorado is, they're being more than patient right now with the Pac-12. Let's put it that way. More than patient. Okay, so let's get an update. Let's get an update on the PATC Theater. Where is everybody? Hold on one second. Got to keep your head on a swivel. Got to keep your head on a swivel. So I'm getting questions on the Monty show. They're doing a show today, something about the Big Ten is ready to pounce. Is that the name of the show today? Big Ten is ready to pounce on ACC schools? Can someone confirm that? Give me a why if that's actually what the show is today. Someone say yes, someone say no. All I can say is the Big Ten is not ready to pounce on an ACC school today. Because those ACC schools would not bring any media value to the Big Ten. There's not going to be any deals made between a Big Ten school, let's say a Big Ten. Are they targeting North Carolina in the sense that they would want North Carolina? Of course. Yes. but they're not ready to pounce. Is it pounce? Are they saying pounce? Big Ten is not ready to pounce on an ACC schools. They're not available. They're not available right now. Again, I shouldn't be saying anything because I don't know what Monty showed, what they're talking about today. But again, I'm trying to put the brakes on a little bit, everybody. The ACC story is going to be long and dramatic, and it's going to be a roller coaster. The motivation for those ACC schools to jump is tremendous. The motivation for those top valued ACC schools to finally risk and to challenge the Gore, the ACC grant of rights, is huge. The ability to win the court case when you have all these changes going on. Maybe their ability to win a court case or to get a settlement from the ACC, maybe that's increased just a tiny bit. I don't know. But people are once, that's why people say that Peek Around the Corner is just a clickbait show and all this. Most of the time I'm putting the brakes on. Hold up. Big Ten is not ready to pounce. If that is the name of the show. I don't know if it is or not. So, now, but you can speculate on who the Big Ten would want, how it would happen, but there is no pouncing going on. There's no pounce. The Big Ten right now, I can tell you, we've been saying for a few months now, when it comes to expansion, the Big Ten, 5 months or in 5 years, we believe at Peek Around the Corner, they're going to get them Oregon and Washington. Now, because it's been like 3 months, we've been saying that. Now we can say 2 months, the 4.5 to 4 3/4 years away from the Big Ten getting to Washington and Oregon. Right? And we saw the Big Ten's, not the schedules, but the matchups coming out for 2024, 2025. That makes it less likely that the Big Ten's going to expand here in the next couple of years with Oregon and Washington. I don't think it completely rules it out, but it makes it less likely. Once you have a schedule that has dates to them, then that completely shuts the door. But those were no dates on it. They could be moved around. They could be adjusted. We'll see what happens with Colorado when it happens. Then the Arizona schools, Utah. We'll see what happens. But the ACC schools are not available right now. They bring no media value to the Big Ten. The Big Ten is not going to expand without a media value attached to those schools. Unless we have some crazy scenario. If you want to go down speculation road, like Larry Pilgrim, the speculation zone, if you want to get real crazy, then you could come up with some sort of scenario that maybe, just maybe, those networks would kick in a few $1 million each. Big Ten has a vault full of money that somehow they would make Florida, like a North Carolina, make sure they would get paid $50 million a year, even if they don't bring any value to the conference. But those are crazy scenarios, crazy speculation. But right now, the ACC schools bring no media value to the conference. So they're not available to get pounced on at Peek Around the Corner. Okay, let's get to your, more of your comments. Then we'll get to your phone calls. No question about it. Long and dramatic. Long and dramatic. And again, we have no steam at all that Notre Dame is ready to challenge, is ready to pay out of the ACC grant of rights. If we get any of it, we'll come up we'll do a live show immediately and we'll talk about it. But there is no steam on that. Rebecca, ESPN, and Fox must start selling subscriptions soon. It's their future as more cut the cord. They aren't going to just leave the Bay Area to Seattle out. It's like 30 million people. We agree. We agree at Peak Around the Corner. Be it 2 months from now, be it now, 4 years and 9 months from now, somewhere in that range, we believe Oregon and Washington will be members of the Big Ten at Peak Around the Corner. And if they're not, we'll take the big L on it. But we feel pretty good about that. Set the stage. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We're still in Act 12. We'll set the stage and we'll get to your phone call. We never set a deadline in Act 12. It started June 1st, May 31st, June 1st. It continues on. Colorado at the center of the stage. They took a little bit of a break. The actor went off the stage, drank a bottle of water there on late June 8th, June 9th, walked back on the stage. Colorado still all alone. Arizona still a couple arm lengths away from Colorado. Oregon and Washington, they left with the Fox executive. They went in their car. They've driven off. They're not in the theater. They're not part of this Big 12, Pac-12 saga right now. They had no part in it. They've driven off. Tony Petitti, Big Ten commissioner, he's seen enough. He's driven off. He'll wait to see what the results are in the next morning's newspaper or when he watches Peek Around the Corner. So, Arizona, a couple arm lengths away from Colorado. Brett Yormark and George Klikoff are standing next side to side of Colorado. In the very first row, all the way up in the first row, is Arizona State and Utah. They've gone all the way up to the very first row. Now you remember Arizona State, they weren't around a couple weeks ago. They came into the auditorium. Utah came in late. They finally sat in the same row with Arizona State in the 15th row. They're all the way up to the first row. They're jockeying position. Like Pete Thamel basically gave you all a hint on his article 2 days ago. They're in the first row. They want to see when it happens, if it happens, Colorado saying yes to George Klikoff on that stage, asking for a Big 12 application. If and when Colorado finally does that, we believe it's when Arizona State in Utah want to be they're in that first row and they're ready to rush the stage if Arizona is then the next one to ask for the Big 12 application. They've jockeyed for position. There's been enough communication. They're in that first row. UConn is in the 10th row. It's the closest they've ever been to the stage. They may need something to happen. They may need Utah to balk. They may need Arizona State to balk. They may need all three of those four corner schools after Colorado to hesitate. But they are there, UConn in the 10th row. I don't know. I think we might have been the first ones or one of the very first ones. We got the information that the UConn steam was legit. It has been legit. It's been legit as a full member, potential full member of the Big 12 Conference. We've moved them all the way up from the 38th row when they were taking notes. They're all the way up to the 10th row. They're watching. They're watching to see if there is an opportunity because they know Brett Yormark is interested, is willing to spend some earned IOUs, some political capital inside the Big 12. Yormark is ready to do what he needs to do for the Big 12 to have an Eastern media presence. So UConn, they've never been this close to the stage before. They're in the 10th row. And Gonzaga is in the front foyer. San Diego State is in the front foyer. that is what we got for the update for PAC-12, and we've been hopefully giving you information that you can digest, understand. Hopefully it's a little bit entertaining in a way that we don't break our trust with our sources, because we've worked so hard to gain their trust by being trustworthy, but at the same time giving you the information that you all needed, that you all wanted throughout this whole endeavor. Oops. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. Again, if you are new to the show, please subscribe to our channel. It's the only way you get notified, because we can pop up at any time. Our episodes can pop up anytime. I have come back from vacation. The little general has come back from vacation. We are back where we belong here at Peek Around the Corner Studios. Please share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to this independent YouTube channel, just hit the $sign and I'll get to your comment as soon as possible. Cameron B, Big 12 won't rush anything with Colorado and Arizona. PAC has no deal. Marchand said it'd take a lot of piecing to hit the Big 12 number. And that may be the George Klikoff, the ability for him to thread the needle. Maybe a bunch of smaller linear networks, cobble them up together, and somehow get close to the Big 12 media. Get close to the Big 12 number. I think that's his only shot. Thank you once again, Cameron B, for your super chat donation. Once again, for your generosity to the show. We're going to go to the phone lines. Finally to the phone lines. I've been talking way too much, but I've been gone, ladies and gentlemen. So what have I missed? Where am I wrong? Where's the Pac-12 media deal? Where is it? Pete Thamel article. What do you think about the Pete Thamel article? Basically, it's what we've been saying at Peek Around the Corner for weeks and weeks. It's all out there. It's all been out there.
Call from
Eric calling.
Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. How's it going? How was your vacation? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was great. We were on the Mississippi River a lot. The wife, her favorite animal is the bald eagle. And
wow.
She's a big bald eagle person. She watches them on the YouTube channels all the time, when they have the live cameras. And we are very blessed in Minnesota. We have the most Florida and Alaska have the most bald eagles. The Mississippi River is filled with bald eagles. And we were on a river cruise. We got real up close to some bald eagles. So it was great. It was a great time.
Great, man. I just learned something. I didn't know Minnesota had that many bald eagles. I know my wife's from New Orleans, so we know all about the Mississippi River. Now, of course, it's a total different end of the Mississippi River, but I'll tell you what, the catfish, the seafood, it's beautiful, man. It's awesome. Ro loves the Mississippi too. Brings back so just all the fresh seafood for one. But we're really, really glad you had a good time.
Well, there's a Wabasha, Minnesota, which is about 2,000 people live there. That has the National Eagle Center. The United States, this country, Eagle Center is in Wabasha, Minnesota. That is the place where, when the bald eagles were getting killed off, there was no protection. Yeah. That is where the bald eagles never diminished in numbers, because that is the place in the Mississippi River where it never freezes over. And if you go there in February, you can see about 200, 300 bald eagles, all within like a couple mile radius, sitting in the treetops, You can't see that anywhere else as they fishing in that one spot where, well, it does. There's a lot of spots that doesn't freeze over, but this is the spot that doesn't freeze over where there's a whole bunch of fish, a whole bunch of bald eagles where they nest. So this is where they all congregate. So that is the place that kept the bald eagles going until we got some national protection for our national bird. So, but go ahead, the floor is yours.
That is awesome. And one more shout out or plug comment before we get into the question and comment I have is we saw you have my wife was especially happy about this, but we saw you have your new T-shirt.
Yes.
With the logo from the live show logo. And she loves it. I love it. She likes I can't pronounce the fancy word for it. It's kind of a pink color one.
Yeah.
And I kind of like of course, being a BYU fan, I like, the royal blue, right?
Sure.
But we're gonna be in those, but those things look awesome. So and we grabbed you one, and we're glad that you have those. Those are really cool. My wife said to tell your wife, of course she's joking, but she said tell your wife that she needs some peek around the corner leggings. She's smiling. She needs some leggings to go with her.
We'll work on it.
She's laughing, smiling over here, but no, they look really, really cool. But about 25, 30, 40 minutes ago, I sent you a DM about the Monty show, where that is what what the show actually says, but that is his tease is the Big Ten is ready to pounce, and so that is true. I actually sent you a DM with the link to the show.
Yeah,
so you'll have it if you want to look at it later. But
yeah,
I don't want to be negative. I like Monty. He's a nice guy. His son's a nice guy. But I will also say that they like to be the news and make the news, and they have a little more hyperbole than you do, where you just like to, give the facts. They really like to be out front, make the news, do the news. Yeah. And I really trust your sources much, much more, especially when it comes to the Big Ten. I mean, you know the Big Ten, but that is what he's saying. One comment I had is, I find it really hard to believe that if Colorado goes to Big 12, I would say it's 20% less chance that they're the only team that goes. I find that very highly unlikely. If Colorado goes, I think it's better than 50-50 that Arizona goes. If Arizona goes, I think it's better than 50-50 that Arizona State goes. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, I think the odds. I think the odds of some other school following the Colorado to the Big 12 has only grown here in the last couple weeks. I will say that. So that is why on this show, I simply asked the question, where's the Pac-12 media deal? Because you know what? Pac-12, they know. They know how close Colorado is from bolting. There is no more mystery to it. There was when I was talking about the big bubble of action, right? There was mystery. Yeah. What did we know? And we weren't the only ones who knew this. There was maybe a handful of people who knew what was going on in the month of May. We were fortunate to be one of them. We gave you guys the information before these things happened. The Pac-12, I don't think, had any idea that they got a shot to the solar plexus. They do now. They know all this now. They read Pete Thamel's article, for God's sakes. So my question is, they don't watch this show, but they read Pete Thamel's. The question is where is the deal? Where is it? Because if it ain't here now,
exactly.
If you have something, you have to deliver it now, because you're an eyelash away from losing Colorado, and there is an increasing chance. Now more than ever, there's a domino effect following Colorado's departure, and the Pac-12 knows this. They know this now. Now they know this.
Absolutely, because the bottom line is the numbers are the numbers. So if they wait for the numbers and the numbers are bad for Colorado, so Colorado goes, then that means the numbers are also bad for Arizona, and they're bad for Arizona State. It's not like the numbers are going to be bad for Colorado and good for those two schools. And from everything I've read, most all of them are in some level of financial distress. They can't afford to take much of a haircut. So if the numbers are bad for Colorado, it's going to be bad for Arizona. And if it's bad for Arizona, it's going to be bad for Arizona State. And the Arizona president in that interview said something that was very telling. If you've been in business or done in business or you've done sales at all, like I have, he says, he said something to the effect, we know what our value is or what we think our value is, but we got to see the actual numbers. And everybody knows what you value yourself at or what the value is very different than what the market will bear. You're worth what the market will pay you. As you know, the Minnesota Viking running back is finding that out right now, that they just, that they just let go. Because they couldn't trade him, because if he was really valuable, they would have been able to trade him. And he was thinking he's worth $10 or $11 million. He's a good enough player. He has that kind of value. He's probably a top 5 running back. You're worth what the market will pay you. And it's noting that the Arizona president said, we know what we think our value is, but we haven't seen any numbers yet. The numbers are what the market will actually pay at that moment in time. And at this moment in time, a lot of these media companies are in financial stress themselves, and most of the media market time slots are already took up, so there's not a big demand. And when demand decreases and financial costs increase, your value goes down, and you're worth what the market will bear. So I think that was very telling, the way he phrased that when he says, we know what we think our value is, but we haven't seen any numbers. And then a question I kind of had for you is, you hear a lot of, it went from no team, all the PAC people were saying, the PAC media people were saying, well, that's ridiculous. No team would ever consider leaving the PAC for the Big 12, and they gave all kinds of kind of elitist reasons as to why they thought that was. And now that's kind of changed from, well, somebody might leave, but it'll only be Colorado, and if Colorado leaves, we'll just replace them with San Diego State. Well, number one, San Diego State's not P5, so probably no media company is going to pay full freight for San Diego State. That's one. So two, you're going to have to divide the money more. Three, if Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State go to the Big 12, I would say it goes down to a 70-30, like 70% chance they go to the PAC, but there's a good 30-40% chance they end up in the Big 12 too instead of the PAC, because if those schools leave, they may not want to go to the PAC. And if you remember, Brett Yormark has said over and over and over again, I want to get in California. I want to get in the Pacific time zone. So if he'll take Connecticut, he would probably take San Diego State first, because A, they're in the West, they're in the Pacific time zone, in the Southern California market, and they're good at both football and basketball, not just basketball. So I don't think it's a guarantee that PAC can just count on that San Diego State's going to come whenever they want it. I would say they have the majority chance, but I would say there's a puncher's shot that San Diego State ends up in the Big 12, and not the PAC. And it's interesting how they go from talking about expanding, now they're just talking about filling in for more lost members. One question I had for you is, I think it's very likely, and I agree with you, it's years away, but if the ACC challenges the grant of rights, I have a gut feeling that it won't be one school. I think it will be 2 or 3 schools at once, because I think they'll want to share the cost and the burden of doing it, and that way they can split the legal costs and stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, we were told very early on from the Florida State Money Purge that these schools would be doing things individually, so they would not be there would be no concern of collusion among them. But those 7 schools were meeting, the Magnificent Seven, as Brett McMurphy labeled them. They were meeting in secret. So maybe that collusion talk is incorrect by a money purge. So would they do it together? I don't know. Good question. Before I would have said no, but now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, because I was just thinking they could split the legal costs, because it's going to be an expensive.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a 5-6 month thing. It's going to be a long, drawn-out legal body. Well, I was thinking maybe that way they could all share a lawyer or share a group of lawyers and kind of split the cost. The idea that there's strength in numbers, and it increases their negotiating position if it's more than one school. So I was just thinking that maybe, just maybe, there might be 2 or 3 schools that challenge it at the same time. But I agree with you that it's not long down the road, and I'm not sure, but I don't think Monty was talking about PAC schools ready to pounce. I think he was referring to the ACC. And I agree
and the Big Ten is not ready to pounce. So.
Yeah, they're not. I think that's quite frankly a bunch of bull. I think that's way down the line. Hey, we love your show. My wife loves your show. Tell the little general we said hi. And I just got one last thing to say, Greg. Go Cougs.
Got it. Go Cougs. Thank you. Great phone call. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Larry Pilgrim, what shot to the solar plexus? To be...
Call from
Moen Vision.
Mona Vision, thanks for calling. Can you hold 1 second, sir?
Sure, Greg.
Larry asks, what shot to the solar plexus? The shot that when Colorado met with the Big 12 eye to eye in a major city in the Midwest, without anybody knowing about it except for a few people, we were one of them. We told you there was going to be a hot bubble of action between April 28th, May 17th. Then when it was April 28th, we told you it was the first weekend in May. And after the first weekend in May happened, we said the Pac-12 keeping all 10 schools were hanging by a thread. We gave, I don't know how much more clear we could have been. We kept saying that was the shot to the solar plexus. We couldn't talk about the meeting, but we gave you the date. Eventually, first weekend in May, then May 7th, because we had to keep our word with our sources. That was a major shot. And Colorado came out of that meeting. It wasn't just Rick George. It was the chancellor who was in that meeting with the Big 12. They came out of that meeting with a couple questions. One of the questions was for the networks. Colorado eventually got their questions answered. Then they had a very important meeting in Boulder, Colorado. Big 12 was not there, but it was Colorado. I don't feel comfortable talking about exactly what happened, but something important happened May 24th in Boulder, Colorado. And then something happened in California on May 31st. That was sort of like what happened on May 24th, but it was bigger. All thumbs up, all support. If Colorado decided to go to the Big 12, Chancellor would have that ability to do so. And then we got the June 9th cancellation. And so now we're waiting to see what Colorado does next. But yes, that was a big shot to the solar plexus. I'm not sure. There's no way we could have been more clear before, after, during what was going on. Monavision, the floor is yours.
Well, Greg, I would just add on there. When you say shot to the solar plexus, you have to do it in a Jesse Ventura voice.
Shot to the solar plexus. Something
shot
like
to the solar plexus, gorilla monsoon.
Yes.
But I just want to add on that the Big Ten is not ready to pounce on the ACC. The Big Ten is not ready to pounce on anybody. I think the Big Ten have closed their doors for the time being. I think they've let many schools know this, including ones that are not targets. And that I believe even if Colorado and Arizona were to leave, the Pac-10 would just backfill with San Diego State and SMU and sign whatever media deal they get. I think ASU becoming an AAU member has a lot to do with that, with ASU staying put. Utah not wanting to be in the Big 12 has a lot to do with that. But I also believe that the Big Ten's expansion targets may have widened a little bit out west. So there might be some more targets outside of Oregon and Washington that they want to give a look at through the years and evaluate. Don't quote me on that, but you can quote me on that.
Got it.
But it's going to be up to what Colorado does. Arizona's not going to leave without Colorado. I do believe that the reason Colorado took that time out before that board meeting was they were probably given a date on when they were supposed to get this big or Pac-10 number with the lineal partner, which I assume is going to be CW. Especially now that Live Golf has merged with the PGA. I don't know where that puts their media deal with them in, because PGA already has a media deal with CBS and NBC. So I could see the CW paying to broadcast the PAC games. You get a lineal partner, you get a lot of national broadcasting opportunities there. Obviously, certain affiliates are going to choose not to carry a Pac-10 game when they can obviously run reruns a lot cheaper. But ultimately, I believe that's what's going to happen, Greg. And tell your wife, if you guys ever come to Ohio, I've got a pair of bald eagles on my back 40 here.
Ooh, got it. Beautiful.
I just walk about a mile and a half down the path and you'll find them.
Wow. That's beautiful. Okay, we'll take you up on that. Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
Greg. Well, you guys take it easy. Great show. I'll give somebody else a chance to call.
Yeah, great call. Thank you.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours. What do you got to say?
Hope you had a good vacation in southern Minnesota.
Yes, southern Minnesota. There is such a place.
Yes. So here's just a couple of things. First of all, the fact that Colorado did not leave last week, that nothing moved forward. I don't think that's positive. It appears that the Big Ten is not moving forward with expansion, and so with Washington and Oregon in that league, it might just be a 3-year deal, which would be sort of a ridiculous Band-Aid, because if you have a 3-year deal, then that means next year you can start talking about leaving again, and that's what will happen. Or it's only 2025, but even in 24. And it'll be just enough to keep that group together. It won't be good exposure. They will suffer. They will fall behind in terms of that not being – they'll be on networks we're normally not watching, but – there just doesn't seem to be a will among that collection of 10 schools, primarily because of academics, to leave. And if that's the case, then two things. First, I'm going to hope above all hope the Big 12 does not take the bait and add any group of 5 schools. There's no need to add any more group of 5 schools to the mix when the Pac-12 is unstable, with Washington, Oregon, and others as targets for the Big 10, and the ACC is unstable. So with that instability, the Big 12 does not. There'll be plenty of Power 5 schools eventually that'll be available, and that's the time to pounce on that and not to admit Memphis or Connecticut or San Diego State. Don't admit any more schools into the Power 5 because that would be a bad decision. And there'll also be some disappointment from Yormark if Yormark can't get it done, because I feel that that's one of the main reasons why Texas and Oklahoma were let out a year early for a relatively small amount of money, at $50 million each. So if he doesn't pull it off, that'll be disappointing, because why not just keep Texas and Oklahoma around for another year or want for some more money? But with that said, the Pac-12, I mean, it's not doing well now as a conference. Hasn't made the CFP in several years. Its best Los Angeles schools are leaving. The TV deal probably will be very unconventional and on channels we don't normally watch. And it won't be for that much money, but it'll probably be enough. That's where I feel that it is. But they will have a deal. The big reason we don't have a deal is because Kliavkoff can't present a deal until he knows it's at least enough to get at the table. He's not going to present a deal at $20 million, knowing that's going to cause anybody to leave. But that's where it probably is. Disappointing to some degree from the Big 12, but the only thing I hope happens now is if it doesn't happen, the Big 12 does not add any more group of 5 schools. I don't care that USF spent $350 million on a stadium, which, by the way, isn't very much. It must be a pretty bland Spartan stadium for only $350 when you look at what teams are spending for stadiums and other stadiums. But I don't care about that. I mean, it's going to be hard enough for the Tier 3 conference, the Big 12 and the ACC and the Pac-12 to keep up with the SEC and the Big 10. And you need to try to separate yourself from the lower schools, and that's where I think it's going. So a little disappointed, but I'm not surprised, because they had plenty of time, and They just don't want to leave. And, I think they'll suffer on the field, but I don't know if they care.
I want to caution everybody, though. I shouldn't say that. I want to make it clear. PATC's, what I think our line is, -3.5, that the Big 12 will poach a Pac-12 school. It'll go down to 2.5 next week. From our perspective, nothing has changed. Yes, the June 9th meeting was canceled. We can't get it confirmed yet why that was. There's some really good reporting. There's some people who've nailed this story that they believe they know why it was canceled. And it wasn't that Colorado, the majority of them said, oh boy, we better not leave to the Big 12. That's not the reason at all. That's not what they're reporting. They're reporting that there was an additional voice that came in and wanted their voice heard, maybe had some concern. And that is why, Lewis, Pete Thamel's words kind of resonate with me. It's like, man, if George Kliavkoff does not have the deal right now to show Colorado and Arizona schools, and then he doesn't have the deal, and he's not going to have the deal for a while yet. Like Andrew Michaud and John Orange just said, they don't think they'll have the deal for at least a few more weeks. I think. So I want to make it clear from our aspect. We don't think anything has changed in regards to Colorado going to the Big 12. We still think it's happening. Unless George Kliavkoff pulls the rabbit out of his hat, we can't find the rabbit, we can't find the hat.
Well, if it's anything, it's probably Apple. And Apple is not dialed in with the traditional media partners.
Yeah.
And the question, no, here's the thing, though. If they do get, I'll say this, if they get $30 million a year, $28 million a year, Apple is tier 1, and yet they have to have games on ESPN and the CW and other linear providers, they are basically fleecing Apple to death. Because Apple only wants in if they can get subscribers. And if you don't need to really subscribe to Apple to get the games you want to see because they're still going to be linear anyway somewhere, then what's the point? And so I don't know, but and maybe it might. Here's the other thing to watch if a deal's announced. It might be, $33 million if you get X number of subscribers. Well, my understanding, the MLS didn't drive subscriptions very much at all. Now, it might a little bit with the coming of Messi, but it hasn't so far driven subscribers on Apple TV. And it might be that kind of a thing. Well, you have to look at the low end of that. So it might be a sliding scale where they can claim, we have the potential to get more than the Big 12. But it probably is Apple, because if it were any of the traditional providers, Marchand and Orand, who I heard them, what they said was very depressing if you're a Pac-12 fan. But It just seems to me the fact that nobody's leaving and nobody's willing to even criticize or even slightly criticize publicly what I think has been a complete mismanagement of the conference. What Robbins has been saying, what Colorado's been saying, they're not even willing to hold them accountable for all the lawsuits at the Holiday Bowl. It just doesn't seem like anybody's really going to leave. They're planning to be there for some period of time. Maybe it's because they're worried that they go to the Big 12, it'll be hard to get to the Big 10 in 3 years. But that's my concern. So I don't know that it's going to happen no matter what Yormark has tried to do. And I could be wrong, but that's just where I see it going. But I do think the time is running out. We get to June 30th and there's no deal, then that's where something's announced by June 30th. That's where you could see some movement. At that point, you can't get any San Diego State. You really can't expand after June 30th for 2024 very easily. And so the deal is going to happen for the Pac-12. It's going to be announced in the next 10, between now and around June 27th, 28th. And if not, then they could leave. That could be very well Colorado's deadline is June 30th. But it'll be a shoddy deal, but I think they will get some kind of a deal and stay together. But it might just be for 3 years, because I don't know that Washington, and Oregon want to stay any longer than that. they want to be free to explore their options. And so a 3-year deal, if it comes to that, there's no way you can polish that in a positive way. That's a really negative if it ends up being just a 3-year deal. So we'll see. But I'm just concerned. I mean, I've been reading through all this. I felt as if the Colorado is probably does not want to leave. Maybe some of their fans want to leave. Maybe some people in the pro football program want to leave because we get a lot more exposure in the Big 12. But I don't think it doesn't seem like that's the regents are elected publicly, and a lot of them presumably are of the mindset they're thinking more about the alliance with Stanford and Cal than they are about wanting to align with West Virginia or Central Florida. That's my concern.
All righty.
All right, well, it's a great show, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully this will be over before the leaves start turning in the fall and play football.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Lewis. Appreciate it. Great call from Lois. Yes, USF. Hold on.
Call from
So, can you hold on for just a second, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay. USF. Tampa. How much will USF football stadium help in conference realignment? It's a good time to run with the Bulls. Athletic director Michael Kelly says all they need is a running mate. Short article from Matt Baker of the Tampa Bay Times. When USF Board of Trustees chairperson Will Weatherford said the Bulls risk being left behind if they don't build a new football stadium, he wasn't bluffing. USF has already been left behind in one crucial realm, conference realignment. I think, there is a link provided in the description box. It talks about how there's going to be a new football stadium. They got AAU membership. A lot of positive things for the University of Southern Florida. So take a look at that article. Big news broke while I was on vacation. USF on-campus football stadium, 35,000. So congratulations to the University of Southern Florida, South Florida. Great news for that athletic program, for that university. They have received a lot of great news lately. USF, AAU, and now new football stadium. They've been working on that for years on campus. Congratulations. The floor is yours, sir. Go ahead. So,
Welcome back, Greg. I hope you enjoyed yourself with the little general.
I did.
Well, we're glad that you're back.
Thank you.
First, I wanted to reiterate, I completely concur with you that the Big Ten schedule really does have something to do with the time frame that either Washington, University of Washington, or Oregon would be attending the Big 12. I think, or Big 10. I'm sorry. That's going to be a couple of years out. I just got to think that way.
Probably,
yeah,
highly probable. I wouldn't rule that out. I'm just saying I wouldn't rule out. I'm not quite with Monavision and you on that. I wouldn't rule it out quite yet, but highly probable Oregon and Washington window doesn't open up for a couple more years now because of that schedule news. Yeah.
Well, there were a couple other things that came out that kind of reinforced that. I had heard that the grant of rights that they've been talking about for the Pac-12 included uneven revenue sharing for the money generated from bowl games and playoff games, or going to the March Madness, and that would lead me to believe that they were caving to the whims of Oregon and Washington, along with the fact that they said that it would be a short term for the grant of rights, and that actually there wouldn't be a grant of rights; it would be a buyout. So it would allow those two schools to get out without having to give over their grant of rights. So that's where I come up with that. One other. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I think that's where we're heading to. If the Pac-12 can get a deal done, I think that's where we're heading to. Yes.
Yeah, right. So that leads me to think that it's going to be a couple of years but not to belabor the point.
Yeah.
I think the date of July 15th is one that not a lot of people talk about. That's the day for the PAC-12 media day, and I just could not imagine that they would have a media day if they didn't have a deal done by then. That just would.
Oh yeah.
I don't see that happening.
July 15th, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, if I can, I've been looking at this for about 10 days now, Greg, and I wanted to talk to you about it. Haven't had the opportunity to do such, so I'm going to put on my little foil hat here very quickly and
Beautiful.
tell you something that happened at the Big 12 meeting that they had recently. They came out and they announced that they were developing a committee to sell naming rights. Specifically, they stated for the new Big 12, the Big 12 combine that they're going to have, where they bring all of the school and all the players together.
Frisco, Texas, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I by no means am I speaking down to yourself or any of the great listeners that you have. I'm just telling you how I came about this. In a previous life, your Mark was at NASCAR.
Yes.
While he was at NASCAR, he is the person that actually negotiated and developed the Nextel Cup and the naming rights for the Nextel Cup. So I don't know if you had heard or not that they were actually considering changing the name of the Big 12. And at the end of the Big 12 meeting, I was waiting to see if they were going to do this or not, but they said that they weren't going to change the name at this time, and they developed that committee to sell the naming rights. What if they sold the naming rights of the Big 12 to a corporate entity? Someone like, let's just take out their Nike. And everywhere you saw the Big 12 logo, you saw a Nike logo. And I live in Houston in the Reliant Stadium, which is, I guess, NRG Stadium now. The naming rights for NRG Stadium sold for $10 million a year. I guarantee you each school could get $10 million from Nike to put Nike on every uniform that they have, every logo they have. They could use that money for the students to be Nike employees. And Nike would love nothing more than to get those employees at an early age. Now, I know this is far-fetched. It's way out there. But the Big Ten and the SEC are never going to change their names. And I just got it. I really believe that your Mark is pushing for the sale of the naming rights to the Big 12.
I think didn't they already decide that they weren't going to change the logo or the name?
Yes, exactly. They said not at this time,
Yeah.
and that as a result of that, they started this board, or they started this group inside of the Big 12 to specifically sell naming rights. So it sounds like it was, they got some pushback. No, we don't want to do it at this time. So let's go ahead and try it out with this. Let's set up a committee, or not a committee, but an entity to sell naming rights to the, for example, the basketball tournament in Mexico, or the basketball game in Mexico, or the combine. So I don't know. I just think that this is something that could really diametrically change the financial status of sports in the future, because it could generate tremendous amounts of revenue. Greg, great having you back. Thank you for taking my call, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future, my friend.
Appreciate it. Great call. Thank you.
Pleasure to be.
Great call. Thank you so much.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is on the line. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
Hey, didn't have to wait this time.
Yeah.
Good to have you back. A little worried
It's
you might
nice.
not
It's
make it
nice to
in
be
time.
back. Nice to be back.
So I probably won't talk too much about the PAC stuff if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I have a general perception of the PAC is they like to make noise about themselves, and this goes back to when they were trying to publicly court Texas.
Yeah.
I think that they're trying to draw a lot of attention, probably for their contract negotiations. Like, look at how many people want us. You should make a good negotiation, a good contract with us. Look, Big 12 wants us, Big 10 schools want us. So I never really thought that they were the big story, but they're a big story. They're not the big story. I've said for a while that I thought the ACC was. I remember saying that a while back, and we didn't really want to talk about it too much. But then the Magnificent Seven happened, and we got that news leaked.
Yeah.
And you remember how much that changed your mind?
It shocked me. That's for sure. Right? Seven schools meeting in the subgroups. Yeah, that I think it shocked more than just me, but I'm the one that's willing to say that shocked us here at Peek Around the Corner.
Well, I think you're right, because it changed what people were willing to respond to.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've posted some things and it just doesn't get much treadway.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden after that, the same statement did get a lot of attention. What it caused people to realize is that big things can happen because these type of groups are now working going forward. I never once believed the Magnificent Seven was just about unequal pay in the ACC. People can believe that if they want.
Yeah.
But I think that's just a little naive. I think that they were in the room talking with ESPN. I think that they were in the room being told this is what could happen if you go to the SEC. This is what we're willing to do. And I think that there was a leak in the room, and that's how we found out. I don't think this was just happening recently. I think this has been going on. I think Miami leaked this, and I think because they got AAU, that's why I think that. I think that they have an offer somewhere else. Notre Dame and Miami getting AAU at the same time when, honestly, Notre Dame didn't really deserve it. It says something's going on. So the only way this happens, we both agreed 2026 is the target, right?
For what?
If possible, that's the target. For a lot, as much as possible.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, people want to position themselves as best they can before 2020.
They can extend beyond it, but why would they want to, right? Like, if they can get things done by then, that's optimal.
Yeah.
And so we've even seen some word coming out that the Big 12 is interested in the ACC. I don't remember exactly where we read that, but they're now starting to come out. The only Eastern school they can openly talk about is UConn. I don't think that that's where it ends for them, though. That's just the tip of the iceberg. They're independent, so the Big 12 can talk about adding them all they want without it looking like, collusion or whatever. And also that does them a favor with ESPN. This is an old story where the state of Connecticut has been pushing ESPN to get UConn into a Power 5. Everyone knows the state of Connecticut gives huge tax breaks to ESPN, and those tax breaks, if I'm not mistaken, are not given in perpetuity. They are given a certain amount of time. So it's in ESPN's best interest to see UConn in a Power 5. And if the Big 12 is helping them do that, well, we know what the Big 12's pro rata says. Every single school in the ACC is a P5, so every single school in the ACC is guaranteed a certain payout in the Big 12. So when you hear the Big 10 talking, I think that's just pressure. I think the Big 10 is going to take the least amount of ACC schools, and the only way this happens by 2026 is if the entire ACC gets moved. Otherwise, the gore's a problem. That's not going to happen shortly within a court case. That's insane. There's no way they could have it done by 2026. The only way it happens, and that's why this is the only reason why I would say something this big is the most likely thing to happen, is if every single school in the ACC finds a home. And the Big 12 can make that happen. You look at a Boston College and you say, there's no way they get a home. They got a guaranteed payout in the Big 12. And it's up in the Northeast where the Big 12 wants to go. They don't have to win their games. They just have to be a location. They're in Boston. You know? It helps them get schools up there. So I think you're looking at a situation where this is real, but the Big 10 is putting this out to pressure the SEC. Because the SEC is slow moving. They probably don't want to go and add 7, 8, 9 schools out of the ACC all at once. I wouldn't blame them. That's probably not a comfortable situation.
Yeah.
It's just the only way it happens, though. I mean, you can kind of see how.
I just don't see the SEC schools being anywhere supportive in adding that many ACC schools.
But what if the threat was there that the Big Ten was going to take Florida State, Miami, Clemson, and Georgia Tech?
I just don't think the SEC. The SEC is not going to be able to stop the Big Ten from taking somebody of value in the ACC, right? I don't think the SEC is going to go ahead and take 7 or 8 ACC schools to stop the Big Ten from getting into the South. The value isn't there. I don't think the SEC schools would be interested in doing that. So I'm just not a believer in finding a home for all those 14 ACC schools in 3 Power 5 conferences, the Big 12, the SEC, and the Big 10. But I understand the theory. I understand that would work. Mm-hmm. I understand that could possibly work to get this thing resolved by 2026. I just don't think the SEC's that interested in all that many ACC schools.
The question is, where's the money, right? Like, where's the money to support this huge?
Yeah, where's the yeah, exactly. And what's the motivation for an Alabama and an Auburn and a Florida degree? I can see the Big Ten motivation, right? Mm-hmm. New recruiting grounds, demographics, region, Fox coming in, all that stuff. Yes, Big Ten. They'll take if they don't eat first, they'll be happy to eat second when it comes to the ACC schools. But again, I don't see the Big Ten taking a whole bunch of them either. I don't see the math. But we'll see.
If you look at the Power 5 situation, like we've talked about, though, if they get those schools, if they take that in, the Power 5 vote is much more controlled. They can create their conference tournament, and
I get that as well. You're Mr. 25. I get it.
Well, it's just that I do 25 because I strongly believe that a 16, 5 schools, only 1 wild card. That's the only reason. People can think 24, 20, whatever it is there. But I just think the only way it happens, the only way, is if you take all or enough to threaten to break apart it. But it's just simpler and less legal issues if you take it all. So that's all I want to go in with that.
Got it.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Great call, Brian. Thanks. Appreciate it. Venkat Sawaran, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate your generosity to the show. Thank you. Thanks to all the super chats for this afternoon. Appreciate your support.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, good sir?
Well, getting on your show today is sort of like all the schools out west in the ACC clamoring for a Big Ten invite.
Yeah,
it's a long line, and
it's a busy channel, no question about it. And I have to thank all of you for that. I appreciate it.
The Cloak and Dagger Theater, certainly specializes in murder mysteries, and we'll see what happens here. I wanted to bring up a couple points. And this is sort of the dilemma.
that the Pac-12 has. Everybody wants to say 3-year deal, blah, 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 blah. But Bob Thompson said about 6 months ago that media companies will not do anything less than 6 for a new deal.
Yeah.
And the problem is you have to come at the perspective of a media company. If you're CW and you want to get into sports and do things like that, and you're investing in that, 3 years to build a relationship and then have it possibly all just go out the window and terminate, that's not a lot of incentive. Nobody here, it's like going to a girl and saying, hey, I want to get married, so let's get married for 3 years, and then when a better wife comes along, I'll divorce you and marry her. That's the kind of logic that is, and it's not very smart. I mean, I just don't think that that's going to happen. And I think Apple very much, I went on the rant before on the sub-license fantasy, and,
Yep.
I've been on that rant before, but, I think Apple wants all in, and they want to drive subscribers, and I think that's a problem. And, Ryan Lochner, who's the CEO of Scripps, has been on the Monty Show before, and actually point blank said, we have not talked to the Pac-12, and there was an interview he did about a month ago where he basically said, look, we don't have the money to support the kind of payout that they're looking for. And I mean, and if Ion's in that same situation, CW is too. And I know they got the live golf thing, but that's a lot of stuff that has to be worked out legally. And if I'm CW, I'm not sure I give that up very easily. I mean, maybe I try to get some of that PGA, split deal or whatnot, but I mean that's going to be worked out on the PGA and live golf's timing, which they don't care about conference realignment right now. So, I mean, I think right now the issue is I don't think there are any partners out there. And, I honestly am going to say this, and I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to be like Canzano and call people liars, but I'm going to say flat out, I think Kirk Schultz is lying. I mean, he's lying. I mean, how many times, whether it's the ESPN Optics comment, and then having Pat McAfee that same week getting $150 million from ESPN. I mean, you go into stories like that. You're looking at a guy who this whole budget crisis arrived because there was a brouhaha in the administration and amongst the faculty at Washington State, and they're not happy about how much is being spent on athletics and the budget issue. And this is sort of a crisis that kind of pulled up, and Kirk Schultz is trying to do everything to kind of control the situation. So he will say anything and offer any kind of hope to do that. And, the interesting thing is, man, I mean, the big thing you need to worry about is the fact that President Kase, who's the one that really runs the show in the Pac-12, the fact that she said nothing, man, that would scare me. That would scare me because, like I said, I think, who knows what happens, but I just don't. I mean, when the big expands, and the television partners, they got to work out the media snafu that Kevin Warren left. But I mean, I just see that as I just see the PAC as an untenable investment, and going back with the ACC, I mean, I could see to a degree, I think Duke, Carolina, and Virginia are a package deal, and I think if the Big wants them, they got to take Duke. And I mean, I think nobody in their right mind, and no football drives the bus, but who in their right mind is going to say or be okay with the fact that there would be no more UNC Duke, home and home basketball games? I mean, that nobody's gonna. I mean, that's all. That's like breaking up Ohio State and Michigan on football. I mean, it's ludicrous. So I think that I think that if the Big expands into the ACC, they'll take UVA, UNC, Duke, and Miami, and we'll see what happens if the SEC follows. They probably won't. I think Greg Sankey, he likes the situation it is right now because he has power from it. He has a lot of influence, and I don't think he wants it changing. But, we'll see what happens. But going back to it, I think the problem is the Pac-12 is there's not anybody out there that wants to do a deal with them at the price they want. And I think ESPN and Fox have they're trying to force consolidation. And eventually that will happen. And, you'll see what happens. And, I think if the Big Ten gets to 25 teams, I think the Big 12 probably gets to that point too. And, who knows what could happen. But, I could see a good chunk of it. I could see a good chunk of the ACC ending up in the Big 12 in 10 years or so. It's up in the air, but anything can happen. But I just think right now we're probably going to head towards Power 4 for the 2026 deal, and then for the next 10 years, however, after that deal is, then that's when we'll get into the Power 3, and that'll kind of coincide with the ACC grant of rights. But I think that's sort of what's happening. But right now, the Pac-12. You're in a situation where you don't have anyone that wants to pay you the money. Streaming, although it's a good idea, there's going to be some risk with Apple. And I do want to point out something to folks. About a month ago, Fox Sports said that they are not going to develop a streaming arm. Now, Fox Sports has worked with the NFL, has worked with Apple on things for the NFL. They've worked on things with, MLS and everything. Fox Sports and Apple have a relationship with each other. I could see the possibility down the road that Fox Sports becomes Apple becomes kind of the outsourced streaming arm for Fox Sports, and that could get Apple into things like get Apple into things like the NFL and the Big Ten and the Big 12 eventually down the road. And I think that's a far better value proposition for Apple and what it's trying to do. And I think just going all in with one conference that's extremely regionalized, has a narrow appeal that only appeals to 20% of the population. And essentially, the minute Oregon and Washington get a chance to go, they're gone. I just don't think it's a good business decision, and that's the problem Pac's in. So, either Washington and Oregon pipe up and say, hey, we're committed to the long run and we're going to be here for 6 or 7 years. Until that's said, no media partner is going to touch them with a 10-foot pole. And I'm out, Greg.
Got it. Thank you. Great call. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
It's Western Civic. What's
Got
going
it,
on,
Western
Greg?
Civic. Thanks for calling. Can you hold 1 second, sir?
Yep.
Ryan says, for your information, Greg, the Monty Show 967, the Big Ten's ready to pounce. We went through that earlier this show. I know people join us all the time. Big Ten is not ready to pounce on ACC schools because they're not available, because they don't bring their media rights to the Big 12, because the ACC owns each of the ACC schools' individual media rights. Jim Willis says ESPN own the ACC grant of rights. ESPN does not own the ACC grant of rights. Thanks, Jim, for coming on in. The ACC conference owns the individual media rights of all of its schools. The ESPN owns the licensing to distribute the ACC content. So that's the difference. If tomorrow we all wake up and we hear the news that 8 ACC schools are ready to dissolve the conference, we're still heading to a court. We're still heading to court, everybody. So just giving you a peek around the corner. Western Civic, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience.
Hey, I thought it'd be a good time to finally address the theory on the Magnificent Seven. But before you do that, Greg, you said something about the Big Ten schedule didn't have dates?
No, they're not there's just the matchups. Just the matchups were revealed for 2024, 2025. There's not dates to it. So nobody's like me and the little general. We're talking during our vacation. We're thinking to each other, I think we're going to go 2024, Minnesota at UCLA, Rose Bowl, baby. First time since 1962, Minnesota's playing in the Rose Bowl. Of course, this would be a regular conference game, but we don't have the date for it. We can't make the plan for it. They haven't locked in the dates for any of these shows, so.
Not even like week numbers or anything like that?
Nope, nothing. Just the matchups. Home and away, and who are you playing, but nothing else has been. That's why I'm saying the door hasn't completely closed on more Big Ten action. But,
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, listen, Greg, if Colorado made this move, they'd be the laughing stock. Anybody west of the Rockies forever. That hasn't changed. And also, your article that's a couple days old is from who? ESPN, which is pushing this whole thing, right? which is pushing the Big 12 to make the sales pitch to Colorado, et cetera, et cetera.
Hold on.
So, just always remember the source.
Wait a second. Pete Thamel's pushing it because ESPN. Dennis Dodd's pushing it because he's evil CBS. Greg Pflugar is pushing it because of clickbait, viewership, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Brett McMurphy's pushing it.
No, but ESPN, come on.
Wait. Andrew Michon pushed it because Andrew Michon says there's no deal about there because he writes, sometimes his articles go in the New York Post.
Whatever. Anyway.
Who?
We'll see, Greg. We'll see.
Who is honest enough? Who is honest enough to report on this stuff? That's all I got to ask.
What they're reporting on is their own sales pitch to Colorado. That's what they're reporting on, okay? They're pushing it. Yes, they want the Big 12 to expand, and so they're reporting on their efforts and trying to create a little momentum to get it done. If they can steal Colorado and Coach Prime from Fox, that's supposedly we have a competitive system. But look, the other thing is, but listening to Petiti, the last time I listened to Petiti was there was a clip on Rich Eisen's show. Boy, it did not seem to indicate that two big conferences were coming in. He seemed to indicate that, it was going to be, I was left with the impression it's more like a 4-conference thing.
There's not going to be a Power 2. If there is going to be a Power 2 conference, if there is going to be a Power 2, it's going to be years and years and years and years out. And for people to be obsessed over a Power 2, to spend all their days talking about a Power 2, that's not a peek around the corner. That's not even a crystal ball. That is some hyperventilating, ridiculous fantasy land.
I don't know about that. I didn't realize that was immaculate a couple calls back. Whoever that was, whoever this caller was gets it or has some vision and it's immaculate.
We're not going to a Power. If we go to a Power 2, it's not happening.
It's been modeled out, Greg. It's been modeled out.
Well, but it's not going to happen for years and years and years.
Yeah,
and
that
years.
may be true. And
that's my point.
I think it's
we got so much stuff going on right now today. Why people? Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. But you're right. I think it's not happening at the pace that I would have imagined, and I think it may be a mistake that the Big didn't pull the trigger. But we'll see. But you stole my thunder also on USF. That was kind of Why wouldn't the PAC be more interested in the AAU schools of USF and Tulane than the R2 schools of San Diego State and SMU?
Well,
I know it's all the way across over there, but it seems like a win-win for both. It'd be nice to get more partners over there. Maybe you'd take both, but wouldn't the PAC be more interested? If you're talking about a 35,000, that's not SEC material, 35,000, but isn't that what San Diego State has as well?
35,000 is fine for this day and age. 35,000 is fine.
Yeah, and so they're in the game. Yeah. I just think that's. If I was, I'd be more interested in the AAU schools. If you could take all 4, you're in some interesting markets there, Tampa and New Orleans, and then Dallas and San Diego. I mean, you assuming you penetrate those markets at all, you know, it's not LA, but you're doing something. But anyway, let's look at these 7. And it's all, I got a question before I go into to the ACC 7 or the Magnificent 7. Do you know, Greg, since it's a 14-team conference, are those the 7 that are those the top 7 revenue producers in the conference exactly?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either, and that's why when you look at this,
It's definitely not.
again, yeah, that's why I think it's the SEC 7, but it's premised on this one notion, and I welcome criticism, but I thought Immaculate touched on it pretty well too. It's based on the premise that none of these guys are going to come out and do that unless they know they have a place to land. So that's the theory, really. And if you look at the 7, and that could be wrong. If that's wrong, then the whole theory's wrong. But if that's right, and you look at what those 7 are, and you look at the jurisdiction, and I disagree that allowing the big into the South isn't a material threat to the SEC.
But they can't stop it. They can't stop it, though.
You're right. They may not be able to stop it, and unless there's some sort of overall agreement or overarching authority that maybe comes out of the playoff people. But anyway, that's it. So that's the theory on why those are the 7. And again, the networks want east to west. And so it still makes sense for the Arizona schools to provide something for them to go west with. But, you know, if they need 9, like Immaculate has come to by some other, I was tipped on the 25. Immaculate did math or something. I don't know how he came to it. But, so anyway, that's really it. What do you think, Greg, about the 7? Because where are the others? And what's Virginia's beef? I mean, you know what I mean? Like what's UVA's big beef and all that? Why are they out there?
But before,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Before they announced, before the Ross Dellinger broke the news that there was 7 schools, and before Brett McMurphy named the 7 schools, I went on Twitter and I guessed it correctly. I had no intel. The reason I guessed there was those 7, because I figured that those are the 7 schools. If you go through all 14 schools, those are the 7 schools that had a tie-in with another school, that if they were going to talk about this type of serious stuff, this possible realignment, that they would have to include their brother, like North Carolina would have to, UNC Chapel Hill would have to include North Carolina State in those discussions. Virginia would have to include Virginia Tech in those discussions. Once you went down that pathway, those are the 7 logical schools that would be in the room. So I'm taking that seriously in the sense of those are the 7. They thought about it legally before they talked about it with each other, right? Because they did not include the 7 top earners. They did not include Louisville. They did not include the private school Duke. They included the 7 of the 14 that they had to even talk about this stuff. So I take it seriously. What my disagreement is with pretty much everybody is this isn't going to go like that. If those 7 schools came out tomorrow and said, we're out of here, we are filing a dissolution of the conference with the 8th school, be it Notre Dame, be it Louisville, whatever they get for the 8th school, it isn't going to happen like that. It would be a monster story. It would be huge. But this thing's got to go to court at some point. Or they have to reach a settlement at some point.
Well, I don't think it does. I think it's settlement. I mean, I think ultimately it'll be a settlement even if it does go to court. And the other argument in favor of why those are the SEC 7 is because the Big Ten hasn't been, you know, they've been dealing with getting a new commissioner. They haven't even been, like they aren't ready now to talk about expansion, probably at their peril. You know, so it's not them. And there's no other place that the ACC schools would want to go other than the SEC or the Big Ten. And I don't think the Big Ten is the one saying, hey, we got a place for y'all right now. So that's the theory on why that's the SEC 7. And if it is, then there could be a time, where they just pull a big old trigger, between now and 26 and like move, you might see 20 teams move, and that could happen. I mean, they just model it out. Each school gets its, you get what you kill kind of thing, and that's what it's going to be. But anyway, that was the theory, Greg. Hey, no war, my friend.
No
and
war.
Welcome home. And
All right,
don't take any wooden forest fires, my friend.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you later.
Great call. Opie, thank you for your super chat. If no one knew about the Magnificent Seven, then you have to wonder what else has been talked about behind the curtain. Glad you made it back from your long trip down the mighty Mississippi in that massive product. Tick, tick, tick. Thank you, Opie, once again for your super chat. You're right. You're absolutely right. If no one knew about the Magnificent Seven, we did not know it at Peek Around the Corner. We had no idea. We said it when that story broke. We had no clue. What else don't we know? What else don't we know that we don't know that we don't know? It's a big story. And I still think it's a big story. But for us, it's for Peek Around the Corner. It's the grant of rights. Who perceives a weakness in the extended grant of rights that went from 2027 to 2036? What school is going to challenge it first? Or what schools are going to challenge it first? How are they going to challenge it? And what is it? What is it? They weren't promised enough. They didn't get enough consideration. The landscape has changed too much. What is it? We at Peek Around the Corner have received no steam that Notre Dame is about to challenge their grant of rights or leave or pay out. No steam on that. We keep checking. There's nothing there. So when and who is going to challenge the grant of rights? Because, again, I know people believe in this 8 schools, dissolve it, bam, they're free to go. It's not, we believe it's not that simple. So the next big story to drop is it going to be the Magnificent Seven? Are they going to do something together? Are they all going to challenge it together? The grant of rights? Could be. But we don't have that. We definitely do not have that intel. Again, our live show today was all about where is the Pac-12 media deal. Marshan and Aran on the media podcast, New York Post, their update, it isn't much. Not much of an update. Amazon is unlikely. CBS is a no. These are potential media partners for the new Pac-12 media deal. Not much of an update because there's nothing there. Amazon is unlikely. CBS is a no. NBC, UCLA is another no. Fox is a no too. Those are the biggest players. Then you get into Apple. They're a little bit of a wild card. I've heard certain things, Andrew Michon, but nothing definitively. I lean towards probably not with Apple. Probably not with them. And we at Peek Around the Corner, this is just speculation. Well, I shouldn't say just speculation. We'll call it an educated speculation because what we've been told by the Arizona State Money Perch, Arizona schools are not going with a total Apple deal, not going massive majority streaming digital deal. So to keep the Arizona schools at home in the Pac-12, maybe Apple is out, or maybe it's looking less and less likely Apple can be part of the deal. Again, back to Andrew Michon. The Pac-12 has said they do not want to do it an all-digital deal. We think a lot of that is Arizona schools, probably Washington, Oregon, and it looks like that's Apple's strategy. So that leaves the CW, Scripps, and those type of players. Smaller, linear networks. Maybe the Pac-12 can cobble together an offer from CW, Scripps, and other types of those types of players Can they get Washington and Oregon to sign on the deal? And then, and can they get Colorado and Arizona schools when they're sitting there with an option to join the Big 12? And again, all the way back to episode 52, when the Oregon Money Perch. It still might be our highest viewed show because it was a big show. Oregon, we were told by a very significant money perch that Oregon wasn't going to sign any type of deal, any type of Pac-12 media grant of rights that had the traditional teeth attached to it. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of bubbling up right now. That was months ago. That was months and months ago when he told us that. And now we're starting to see a bubbling up of some reports saying there probably is going to be a way out of this new Pac-12 media deal, whatever this looks like, whenever it gets signed. Looks like there's going to be an exit hatch included for schools to be able to get out of the, be an exit fee, not so much your traditional grant of rights. We shall see. But that was told to us long time ago, and we reported to you all. We gave you a peek around the corner here at Peek Around the Corner. We want to thank you all for showing up today. First show in a long time, probably 5, 6, 7 days. We've been on vacation. Stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We can pop up at any time. Any breaking news, any intel we get, we're going to pop up on a live show because cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. We figured out the cloak. We figured out the cloak before it happened. May 7th, May 24th, May 31st, we gave you all a peek around the corner. Now we wait to see when the dagger happens. We believe it almost happened last week. So keep your head on a swivel. Always keep your head on a swivel, PATC community. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so much.